left my land for just 2 months, 8 short weeks. And when I came back, a $900,000 mansion was staring at me like it owned the place. The woman who built it, a perfect suburban nightmare with a polished smile, looked me dead in the eyes and told me to leave. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to HOA Stories and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? That was her first mistake. She built her dream house on the wrong man's land, and I was about to take it from her. My name is Michael Turner, 58 years old, recently divorced, and one signature away from disappearing into irrelevance. My ex-wife kept the house, the furniture, even the damn dog. I got my truck, my tools, and my pride, which felt like a bad bargain at the time. So I bought 5 acres in the quiet hills of Caldwell County, North Carolina. No houses, no fences, no HOA clipboard warriors telling you to hide your trash bins. Just trees and a creek and silence. The kind of silence that lets a man rebuild himself piece by piece. I'm a land surveyor by trade. I know property lines like I know my own pulse. I walked every inch of that soil, marked every boundary pin myself. Glove on the dirt, steel in the ground. That land was the first thing in years that felt like mine. 2 months later, I returned to find my fresh start stolen, transformed into someone else's luxury. The discovery started with a drone. A buddy of mine, Ray, got one of those fancy DJI models. He sent me a quick flyover clip of my land. I hit play expecting trees and maybe a deer or two. Instead, a 2-story glass and stone monument to arrogance. Solar roof, pool glowing like a hotel resort. A Tesla under a steel carport. A fenced-off driveway cutting straight through the land I bled for. And beneath it all, still visible in the grass, my boundary marker. I placed it there with my own hands. They built over it like it meant nothing. I didn't think. I just grabbed my keys and drove, 8 hours through the night. One hand on the wheel, the other clenched so tight my knuckles went white. By dawn, I was staring at a security gate blocking the only road into my land. A digital keypad blinked red. Access denied. A sign, zip-tied to the fence, hammered the insult home. Property of Lakeside Pines. Ho-Oh, no trespassing, Ho-Oh. The 3 letters every God-fearing homeowner knows to dread. As I stared through the iron bars at the mansion, my land, my jaw locked so hard it ached. I took one step closer, studying every detail, looking for some rational explanation. Then, a black Lexus SUV glided down the fresh asphalt like a shark through water. It stopped at the gate, the window rolled down. And out leaned Karen, not just any Karen. The final boss of Karens, sharp, blonde bob. Designer sunglasses. A smile that said she practiced it daily in the mirror, one that never reached her eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked, voice dripping with syrup and arsenic. "Yeah," I said. "You can start by opening that gate. I need to get onto my property." Her head tilted, 12 degrees of pure condescension. "No," she replied. "This land belongs to Lakeside Pines Phase 4. It's been annexed into our community. If you don't live here, you can't be here." I held up the deed, creased from my pocket but loud with authority. "This says otherwise." She didn't even look at it. "That document must be outdated. You'll want to take that up with zoning. Have a nice day." She tapped a button on her fancy tablet and my gate buzzed, like it was warning a stray dog. I didn't move. She narrowed her eyes, voice firm now. "Sir, leave, or we'll call the sheriff." I smiled. "Good," I said, calm. "He's going to love this." She started to reply, but I turned and headed for my truck. I didn't need her permission to fight. I needed paperwork, and I knew exactly where to get it. The Caldwell County Courthouse smelled like burnt coffee and printer toner. The records clerk brought me a stack of zoning files thick enough to crush a man's optimism. I sifted until my fingers were black with dust and frustration. Then I found it. A forged annexation approval signed by a notary who had been dead 3 years. I took that straight to someone I trusted, Deputy Registrar Jack Morris. A no-nonsense bulldog of a man. He examined the document and didn't blink. "This is fake," he said. "Blatant fraud." We dug deeper. What we found made my blood pressure spike hard enough to rattle the windows. A shell corporation was behind the mansion, Hilltop Reserve, Inc. Newly registered, barely 60 days old. Registered owner? Tanner McCarthy, Karen's son. Of course, a family business of corruption. HOA money funneled into personal paradise, and they built it on my land. Jack looked me dead in the eyes. "You file this case, Michael, and we'll be right behind you." So I did. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I drove back out to the property line and installed trail cams. Night mode, motion-triggered, time-stamped. I wanted proof, cold, digital proof. And within hours, I had it. Workers unloading teak furniture and pallet-wrapped appliances labeled with HOA funds. Landscapers installing irrigation systems. Electricians rigging pool lighting. $70,000 of fresh sod rolled out like green carpet. It belonged to residents who thought they were paying for community parks, while Karen built her private kingdom. I compiled every video, every timestamp, every logo, evidence that could tear a castle down. But I needed more leverage, something public, something humiliating. The next day, I found a real estate listing. The mansion, my land, listed on a luxury market for $940,000. Karen wasn't just squatting. She was trying to flip my property before anyone could stop her. I contacted the realtor, pretended to represent buyers from Florida loaded with cash and bad priorities. "Oh, of course," she chirped. "Private showing this Thursday at noon." Perfect. When the day arrived, I parked where nobody could see me. Watched from the ridge as a well-dressed couple stepped out of a Mercedes and shook hands with the realtor. Right before she began her pitch, my pitch, I walked down the path, folder in hand. The realtor's smile cracked. The couple stared. "Before you make an offer," I said calmly, "you should know something." I handed them the deed and case number for the active criminal investigation. "This house," I said, "is stolen property." The couple paled. They didn't argue, didn't ask questions. They got in their car and vanished like the place was cursed. The realtor stammered threats. I gave her a polite nod and walked away. By the time I reached my truck, the internet had already noticed. HOA fraud balloon wide open landowner exposes $1 million scam. Dead notary's signature at center of scandal. The fire was spreading. Karen was losing control. And she wasn't going to go quietly. Because that night at 3:15 a.m., my phone buzzed, motion detected, east boundary camera. I tapped the alert. There they were, Karen and her son, Tanner, flashlights sweeping the dark. Hands gripping crowbars. They were ripping my boundary markers out of the ground. Stealing physical proof of my property line, trying to erase my claim one metal stake at a time. They didn't know they were being filmed. My land was under attack, and I was done holding back. I stared at the night vision footage, adrenaline pounding through my veins like a war drum. Karen held the marker, wrenching the steel pin with both hands. Tanner shoveled dirt over the spot, trying to erase the evidence that my land was mine. These weren't boundary disputes anymore. This was criminal intent caught in the act. I saved the footage 3 times. Cloud backup, hard drive, USB. If Karen wanted to rewrite history, she was going to learn that I document everything. At 9:00 a.m., I walked into the sheriff's office with steel in my eyes and that USB in my pocket. Detective Holloway, broad shoulders, calm voice, zero tolerance for BS, plugged it in. He watched the clip once, then again. Then a third time, slower. His jaw tightened. "That's felony tampering. And trespassing, I added. He nodded. And obstruction if those markers were tied to a zoning investigation. They are. He clicked the monitor off. All right, Turner. You just handed us probable cause. We're opening a criminal case today. For the first time since this war began, momentum was on my side. But cornered animals lash out, and Karen was no different. By lunchtime, a sheriff's deputy knocked on my motel door. He handed me a sealed envelope with the soft sympathy of someone delivering a death notice. You've been served. Inside, a temporary restraining order. According to Karen, I had attempted to break into her home with an axe, stalked her at night, screamed threats through her windows. Hell, she even claimed her precious son barely escaped a violent confrontation. All lies. Creative, desperate lies. And attached were grainy photos of some random silhouette near a fence. Could have been Bigfoot for all anyone knew. My attorney, Robson, sighed when I called. She's turning the table, trying to brand you as the aggressor. Will the court believe it? He snorted. You have time-stamped footage placing you hours away during every alleged incident. We'll crush this. Still, it slowed everything down. That was the point, but Karen wasn't finished. The following day, my professional licensing board emailed me anonymous complaint alleging mental instability, harassment, and improper use of survey equipment. They wanted a response. Anonymous. Right. Karen's fingerprints were all over it, even if her name wasn't. The woman was trying to suffocate me under paperwork before the truth could breathe. That's when another alert pinged my phone. Movement detected. Camera 03. Back of house 3:12 a.m. I tapped to feed. A white SUV lights off-rolled silently into the driveway. Two figures stepped out, faces hidden by hoodies and baseball caps. Tanner was one of them. I'd recognize that arrogant posture anywhere. They slipped into the mansion through the back door. Minutes later, they emerged carrying boxes, heavy ones stuffed with paperwork. Permits, financial records, HOA correspondence, evidence. They loaded everything into the SUV and disappeared into the dark like funeral thieves. Holloway watched the footage with a calm stillness that worried me more than yelling would have. This, he said, is destruction of subpoenaed evidence. That's jail time. He didn't waste another second. Sit tight. It's time to move. He placed a call. An emergency injunction was filed, one that could freeze access to the land stop construction force eviction. The request hit a judge's desk before lunch. I could taste the turning tide. 2 days later, we were all in a wood-paneled courtroom, me on one side of the aisle, Karen and Tanner on the other. She looked smaller now. Less queen, more cornered criminal. Judge Holloway, no relation to the detective, read the list of accusations in a voice so sharp the benches seemed to straighten up. Forged documents, illegal annexation, misuse of HOA funds, destruction of evidence. Robson connected the USB and played the video of Karen uprooting my markers. The court watched in silence as the metal stake came free, as Tanner dropped it into a garbage bag like a corpse. Karen stood. That footage is manipulated, she barked. The judge didn't even look up. Sit down. Robson raised another document. County records confirmed the notary who signed the annexation approval died in 2019. A wave of gasps rolled through the room like thunder. The judge turned to Karen. Mrs. McCarthy, do you wish to correct your previous statement that everything was lawful? Karen's lips quivered. She had no words. Robson delivered the final blow. We request an immediate injunction to freeze all activity on the parcel, enforce eviction, and assign temporary possession of the land to its rightful owner. The judge didn't hesitate. Granted. You have 24 hours to vacate. Construction ceases immediately. Karen shot to her feet. You can't evict me. I run this HOA. The judge banged the gavel so hard it echoed like a gunshot. You run nothing. Not here. Court adjourned. Karen was dragged backward into a storm she created. Tanner looked like he wanted to punch a hole through the earth. Their little empire was coming down. And the demolition crew was the truth. The eviction was set for noon the following day. Word spread like wildfire. Neighbors lined the street just to watch the show, like it was the county fair's biggest attraction. I stayed back, arms crossed, as sheriff cruisers rolled up the drive. The atmosphere tasted like justice. Karen and Tanner were forced to haul out suitcases they probably packed through tears. Karen muttered curses under her breath, words I won't repeat, but none of them slowed the deputy escorting her off my land. "This is MY community," she screamed at the wind. "Not anymore," someone in the crowd shouted. Once they were gone, it was just me, the sheriff's office, and the mansion built on my grief. Detective Holloway walked up beside me, hands on his belt. "You ready to see the inside?" I hesitated. This was a palace I never wanted, a symbol of everything someone tried to steal from me. But I nodded. Inside, sunlight poured through glass walls onto polished marble. Chandeliers sparkled above a living room big enough to host a town hall. The kitchen had appliances worth more than my old truck. Every luxury, built with the money of scared homeowners trying to avoid the wrath of the HOA queen. "This is absurd," I muttered. Holloway chuckled quietly. "Yeah, absurd in your favor." We toured the house, the theater room, the Lakeview suite, the pool deck. Every detail screamed entitlement taken too far. She built a mansion to crown herself queen. But she built it for me, because the law said so now. 3 weeks later, back in that same courtroom, everything concluded. The judge's voice rolled like thunder. All structures, improvements, and fixtures on the property are the legal possession of the plaintiff, Michael Turner. It hit me like a breath I'd been holding for months. I won, completely. No compensation owed, no repayment required. The house, the land, the pool, all mine. Karen crumpled into her chair, destroyed and defeated. Tanner looked like he wanted to vanish through the floor. Fraud, forgery, embezzlement, tampering with land records. They would both be seeing the inside of a courtroom again soon, just not as defendants in a civil case. As criminals. 1 month later, I installed a small concrete slab at the entrance of the driveway. On it, welded in bold permanent steel letters, Miss C. Carthy's mistake property of Michael Turner. People stopped to take pictures. Some to laugh, some to shake their heads in disbelief. Me? I sit on the back porch overlooking the creek, the original dream I envisioned, only now with a pool I never asked for. And I breathe, because sometimes the universe doesn't give you the life you planned. It gives you the one you fought like hell to reclaim. The mansion was mine, legally stamped and signed, but victory isn't peace. Peace comes later, after the noise stops. And with Karen, the noise hadn't stopped yet. After the ruling, the county seized all remaining construction documents. Contractors lawyered up. HOA board members wrote panicked statements. Residents gossiped like wildfire, desperate to distance themselves from the woman who had ruled them with fear and fines. Karen wasn't used to being powerless, and she didn't accept it quietly. The first crack came at a follow-up HOA meeting, one I wasn't supposed to attend but live-streamed thanks to a friend inside. The lodge was packed, residents elbow to elbow, faces red with anger and betrayal. A board member slammed a stack of ledgers onto the table. "Over $400,000 of dues misappropriated," he shouted, "for a private mansion on land that doesn't belong to us." A chorus of fury erupted. "She stole from us. She threatened liens on our homes. She bullied my wife for a bird feeder." Karen stood at the front like a dethroned dictator. "You're twisting the facts," she insisted. "I was building us a future. You were building yourself a vacation palace," someone roared. A tomato, or something close to it, flew and splattered against the wall near her head. The room devolved into pure revolt. The board held an emergency vote and stripped Karen of presidency by unanimous decision. Her expression as she stormed out, disbelief cracked into panic. The queen was gone. The kingdom was turning to dust. Meanwhile, Detective Holloway worked the criminal case like a craftsman sharpening a blade. Bank records, false signatures, secret transfers. He stacked it all neatly into a box labeled State v. M. Carthy. The day they arrested her, she was loading boxes into a rental truck trying to vanish before sentencing. Officers rolled up, lights spinning in the early morning sun. She fought. She screamed. She cried. Folks recorded it from their porches, some whispering prayers, others grinning like Christmas morning. Tanner was taken in 2 hours later, hands cuffed behind him, jaw clenched so hard his teeth might have cracked. His name was on the shell company. He wasn't slipping out. Their perp walks were the kind of poetic justice you don't often get in real life. Sentencing day was a colder atmosphere, less shouting, more weight. Karen walked into court in a beige suit that tried and failed to look respectable. Tanner sat beside her, shoulders collapsed inward like a building with a bad foundation. The prosecutor laid it out clean and merciless. Fraud, forgery, embezzlement, destruction of evidence, criminal misrepresentation of property records. You believed you were entitled to another person's land. Silence. When wealth and status erode a person's morality, prison becomes a reminder that laws apply to everyone. The courtroom held its breath. Tanner McCarthy, 18 months in state prison. Karen McCarthy, 5 years. The gavel slam was final, loud enough to echo all the way back to the mansion she lost. I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I just exhaled the weight of a battle I never asked for but won anyway. While legal dust settled, I focused on something new, choosing what this strange, extravagant house meant for the rest of my life. Neighbors approached me cautiously, different than before. A man with a ball cap and weary eyes introduced himself. Name's Rick. Karen fined my daughter $50 for having chalk drawings on our driveway. I'm sorry you dealt with that, I said. He laughed bitterly. Don't be. You put an end to it. Others followed. They brought casseroles, tools, even lawn chairs, not out of obligation, out of gratitude. I wasn't the villain Karen tried to paint me as. I was the guy who stood up when no one else dared. One afternoon, a little girl climbed the front steps shyly and handed me a potted plant with a crooked smile. For your new home, she said. Thank you. I felt that deeper than all the legal victories combined. The house took weeks to sift through, some rooms still mid-construction, others staged like a magazine cover. I found labels that made me laugh out loud: home theater decor phase 2, custom wine room components, Karen's lake patio vision binder. She built a shrine to her ego on land I wanted for peace. But slowly, I found myself appreciating the irony. The sunrises over the lake, the cool evenings by the fire pit, the echo of laughter from neighbors finally free. The universe really does give strange gifts. One night, I stood on the balcony overlooking the water. The moon reflected off the pool like silver glass. Crickets hummed. Wind whispered across the trees, those same trees I mapped with hope before all hell broke loose. My ex-wife once told me I'd die alone in some broken-down cabin in the woods. Maybe I almost did. But instead, I get to live in a house so outrageous it would make a movie villain jealous. And I get to live here happy. The county asked if I would name the place something official for the new land record filing. I thought about the sweat, the court hearings, the nights staring at surveillance screens, the way Karen had tried to bury me in my land like I didn't matter. So I named it Turner's Reclaim, because that's what this whole damn story was about. A reclaiming of my land. A reclaiming of my future. A reclaiming of the parts of myself that never backed down, even if a mansion came with it. I hung a small wooden sign beside the fancy steel one, a handmade touch among the luxury finishes. It read, "What's taken from you isn't lost. What's stolen from you can be returned. What's yours will find you again." And every morning, coffee in hand, I step out onto the porch and let the calm wash over me. No board meetings, no forged signatures, no gatekeepers, just land. My land. People ask sometimes, "Do you feel bad about owning a house she built?" I look around at the peace I fought for, then answer, "She stole my land. Karma stole her mansion. I just happened to live here." They laugh. I smile. And the creek behind the house keeps whispering like it knows the truth. Good things grow back, especially when you refuse to let them be taken. Because the one thing no one can build without permission is someone else's legacy.